Okay, in this video we're going to talk about the importance of rules. This is the second question that I ask all my clients in my in-home dog psychology sessions is what rules does your dog have? And most of my clients struggle to come up with any rules at all. Now, before we talk about the importance of rules and how dogs relate to us, this is really going to be a mini version of what I do in my in-home sessions, and I'm going to cover a lot of tips and stuff. It's going to be a little bit longer of a video than I'd like, but it's going to be a lot of information that's really going to help you form a very healthy leader-follower dynamic with your puppy. So I would invite you and everybody that lives with a dog to watch this video together. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the psychology of rules. When we're babies, rules are introduced to us to keep us safe. You can't move out of this room. You can be in this room, but not that room. Or you can be in this room and that room, but not off of this floor. Or you can be this floor in the basement, but not upstairs. You can be in the backyard, but not the front yard, but not across out of the yard, or not across the street. So as these rules are foisted upon us, we always want to go play with our friends who are across the street, or our brother who is downstairs, or we want to do something that we're not allowed to do. So we perceive rules as a negative. That's the psychology that we have because of the way rules are introduced to us, and the rest of our life we perceive rules as a negative. Now when it comes to rules, what is a positive? Breaking the rule, at least for a kid's perspective. It's Friday night, I got my homework and my chores done, it's past curfew, but there's a movie on, can we stay up late and finish watching the movie? And your parents say yes, and you're like, yay! We celebrate breaking of the rules. So that psychology also stays with us through adulthood. So we look at enforcing rules as being mean, and we look at breaking the rules as a reward or as a positive. Now, this is problematic when it comes to dogs because of how dogs learn. Dogs go through life probing to determine where boundaries and limits are, but also to determine who are the leaders and who are the followers. Now, dogs live through repetition, consistency, and good timing. You have 3 seconds to correct or reward your dog for them to have the ability to make the connection and understand why, but it has to be repeated over and over consistently, and I'll explain why. Now, let's say that there's an area rug here in front of the camera, and I'm a dog that you adopted. And you don't know if you can trust me on this carpet, and it's an expensive carpet, so you don't want me to go on there. So I cross the threshold and you disagree. Now, if your timing is precise, the instant I cross the threshold, you disagree, that's a way of helping me understand that that boundary point is something that I need to respect. But as a dog, I'm going to be thorough. So I'm going to move over a little bit and try again, because maybe there's an entry point here that you don't object to. That doesn't work, and I move over a little bit again, and again, and again, and again. After like 15, 16 times, people are like, is this dog ever going to figure it out? Well, really, the dog is just being thorough. Maybe there is a point along the carpet that I am allowed to walk on, or maybe there's a combination of events that will allow me to walk on it. Maybe when the kids are at school, the TV's on, and I hear the microwave ding, then I can cross the threshold. So really, when a dog keeps on doing it, it's not being annoying, it's not doing it to piss you off, it's being thorough. So let's say 15 times in a row you disagree, and the 16th time you get distracted, you're helping somebody or you're on a phone call, and I cross the threshold. In my mind as a dog, the way that I interpret that is, in this house, you have to ask 16 times to get your way. Then next time, maybe you stop me 31 times before you get distracted, and I cross the 32nd time. I'm like, oh, they moved the goalpost, now I have to try 32 times. And because we're inconsistent like this, we actually cause our dogs to, in our minds, be defiant. But really the dog is probing to see, they want to exhaust that combination. How many variants can I go through, and then I consistently get a no, then it's a no. Now, let's say that you are equal to the task. So 500 times in a row, and as a dog, I'm trying at nighttime, when people are eating, when people are sleeping, the TV's on, all these different combinations. Let's say 500 times in a row, every single time I cross the threshold, you disagree. I'm like, okay, clearly they don't want me to go on there, so I stop trying to go on the carpet. And after a week, you're like, you know what, David's been such a good dog lately. He hasn't tried to go on the carpet once. David, why don't you come over here and go on the carpet? So as a dog, I'm just like, you blew my mind. I was never going to do it. Now I have to ask 501 times to get my way? So we often train our dogs to be defiant because of this difference between human psychology and dog psychology and how we perceive rules. Now for dogs, one of the questions I ask my clients is, do you think you have an alpha dog? And a lot of them say yes, and I promise them all that they don't have an alpha dog because dogs actually don't practice alpha. Dogs share leadership. In this capacity, I'm a leader. In this capacity, you're the leader, and I'm the follower. And that's kind of how dogs go through it. Now, for dogs, they're also kind of blue collar. At least they need to see us acting blue collar in order to respect us as an authority figure. I found that when it comes to dogs listening to us, there's really 2 issues at hand. Number 1, does the dog actually understand what you want? I find a lot of times it's miscommunication. We haven't communicated clearly what the dog wants, so the dog doesn't understand. So let's say that we've already addressed that, because we do address that in our puppy classes. So let's say the dog knows what you want, Those of you who have kids understand, just because a kid knows what they want doesn't mean they're going to actually do it. They need to be motivated to do it. Now, dogs have a leader-follower dynamic. They're a group of leaders and there's followers. Well, we want you to be perceived as a leader. And we don't practice dominance theory here at Doggone Problems. We don't want you to punish your dog or yell at your dog or force your dog. We want you to be a leader the same way you're a leader to your kids. You nurture them, you provide for them, you guide them, you do correct them, but you also support them and you reward them and all those fun things. And because of that, they have a genuine respect for you as an authority figure. So when it comes to dogs, a lot of people think, I'm going to dominate the dog and show it who's boss. But that doesn't work in any other scenario, and it doesn't work very well with dogs. So basically what we want to do is we want the dogs to respect us as a leader. And I mentioned earlier, dogs are kind of about being blue collar. Well, for dogs, burning energy is actually a form of currency. If you're really serious about something, you're willing to stop what you're doing, burn the energy to get up, go over and either correct or make it happen. But if you're not willing to burn the energy to stand up and go over there, you're just going to say the same thing over and over again. Just like if you pass a police officer who says slow down as you speed by, and every day they say slow down but they never give you a ticket, you're not going to have any respect for them. And you're not going to listen to them because they're not showing you that you need to respect them. I'm not saying that you should speed. Going back to this, the enforcement of rules, dogs we have a tendency to think, look, I'm the human, so you should respect me as the authority figure. Dogs don't see it that way. We provide you with this awesome house to live in. We provide you with dog food. There's a dog bed over there. There's a whole bunch of dog toys. The dog's like, I didn't see you build this house. I didn't see you hunt that food. I didn't see you make those toys. Matter of fact, when you leave the house, I'm assuming you party like a rock star. You come home and you sit down and you watch TV. Doesn't seem like you're acting like a leader then. You sit down and you shovel food in your mouth. Doesn't seem like you're acting a leader there. Or you go to sleep. So the dog doesn't see you actually acting like a leader if you don't have any rules. Enforcing rules is one of the great ways we can illustrate to a dog that we are a leader. And it needs to be done dispassionately, not upset or not in an angry way. But just know consistently you're not allowed to have chocolate cake for breakfast no matter how many times or how many versions of the way you asked me as a child. It's never going to happen. So for the dog, we need to kind of have that same adherence and consistency. So basically, I'm going to talk about some rules that can enforce, and enforcing them consistently will help your dog respect you. However, a lot of us, because of that psychology I talked about a minute ago, think of enforcing the rules as being mean to the dog. So I want you to think of these rules as privileges. If you have a child who borrows your car when they're turned 16, and they bring it back with an empty tank of gas, a flat tire, and it smells like cigarettes, they're probably going to lose driving privileges for a while. And you wouldn't feel bad about that at all because you gave them a privilege and they showed you they weren't worthy of it. For some reason we get puppies, we're like, here's access to everything. Well, then where else do you have to go up? What's your added motivation? What does the dog have to look forward to? You don't do this with kids. You don't tell your kids, hey, here's access to everything. Little puppies are just like baby kids. They need to get access granted or revoked based on their behavior. So I want you to think of these rules as a privilege that are enforced or revoked based on the dog's behavior. Now also, I don't want you to think of it, like I said, enforcing them or breaking the rules as a positive. So consistency is super duper important. Now I'm a little bit like Mr. Miyagi for those of you who've watched Karate Kid. I'm going to talk about rules, and there's certainly the rule itself is important, but the rules that I'm picking, they have substance behind it. There's other things that are going on. So I might not necessarily mention all of them, but these aren't things that I arbitrarily picked. For example, one of the rules I usually suggest is not allowing the dogs on the furniture. For dogs, the higher you sit, the more rank or social standing that you have amongst the members of your pack or your group, in this case, your family. So letting your dog sit at the same height as you says we are peers. Letting your dog sit up here says you have more rank than I do. And so those of you who have little dogs, but he loves going up there and looking out the window and well, but if he barks at everybody's going by, he's practicing behavior that you don't want. If your child really likes markering the wall, just because they like it doesn't mean they get permission to do it. Some things we can't get permission to do. So one of the first rules, like I said, I suggest is no furniture. My rule for puppies is I allow the puppy on the furniture until the puppy can get on the furniture on their own. At that point, I revoke that privilege. Now, just like humans, getting more access later in life is always looked at upon as a warm thing and a positive. Having things revoked is a negative. So if you give your puppy access to everything at day one, you have nowhere to go up. And if you go down because the puppy doesn't perform well, it looks at as a resentment. But if you train your dog not to be on the furniture, you're going to have 10 or 15 years that you can let the dog on the furniture. And for those of you who have large breed dogs, what will be cute to have the dog snuggling with you at this size will not be cute when it's this size. And it's a big outdoor dog. And it's got mud on its paws and long fingernails and it rips up your couch or sheds on your couch. A lot of my clients say, you know what, I kind of like not having the dog on the furniture. Now, your puppy is going to protest if you've been allowing them there. And I'm not saying you can't snuggle with your puppy. You can always go to their level. They just can't come up to your level. Now, if you want to snuggle with your puppy, get a bunch of pillows, throw them on the carpet, lay down and watch a movie, and have a snuggle party with your puppies. But that way they see you up here and they're down here. Now, to get a dog off of furniture, we have another video that you'll get in another email with a video link on how to teach your dog to get off of the furniture. We'll also, and at the same time that you take away the furniture, I always recommend giving your dog a dog bed to go to. And we also have another video that we'll send you on teaching your dog to use the dog bed on command. But for now, the way that I get the dog to get off the furniture is I would show the dog that I had a treat, throw it on the ground, and when he gets off the ground, off the couch and licks it up, I would say the word off. Then I would block him from getting back on the furniture. Now that's easier said than done if you're not going to be there supervising your dog all the time. As a puppy, you probably should. You should have a long-term confinement area. You can put them in there if they're not going to be directly supervised. However, if you could trust your puppy not to chew things up, but not to necessarily not get on the furniture, you might want to pick something up like this. These are called X mats. They fold them in half. They're, I don't know, I'd say about probably 2 feet by 2 feet square. And they have these little spikes on them. Now, they're plastic spikes. I'm putting my pressure down. I'm not causing any pain to myself. Well, it is discomfort, but I'm not hurting myself. So you put these on each cushion of the couch, and that will block your dog from not going on the furniture. Now, when you get up and you want to sit on the couch, you just fold it, put it underneath your couch, and then you're good to go. Now, I've been putting these up here on my couch. At first, I had 3, then I went 2, now I have 1, and I've taken them off recently, and my dogs have just gotten out of the habit of getting on the furniture, so they don't try to get up. So rule number 1, no furniture, and then later on I would give furniture as a privilege, and that's a one-time exception. So if I invited my buddy Max up here and he started barking, he would have to get down. Or if I invited Max up here and then he got down to get a drink of water, when he comes back, he would need another invitation to get back in the furniture. And that way, each time I grant him permission, he's sharing my couch. I have a lot of clients, the dog chews up the couch or they mark the couch. Well, they do that because they're too familiar. They think it's their couch and they like chewing on their stuff. Well, if they perceive this as my couch that I'm sharing it with them, well, then I better be on good behavior so I can get an invitation to go back there again. That will help your puppies reduce the chewing as well as the marking and all the rest of that stuff. Also, if your dog goes and drags its shoulder along the front of your couch, a lot of times that's a way of scent marking. So if you see your dog do that quite a bit, I would disagree with that. Okay, so other rules that I want to talk about, one of the most fundamental ones and a very easy one to handle is feeding. Dogs in the wild spend 90% of their time looking for food. It is the primal drive. It is the most important activity they participate in. When they do eat, they eat in the order of rank. The leaders eat first, then the lower leaders eat, then the followers eat. And so that's kind of the hierarchy. So if you go feed them in a bowl and you don't eat in front of them, like, why should I listen to you? You don't even have privileges or status for the most important thing in life. Now, it's not reasonable for us to rearrange our schedules, although I will share a little tip for you. If you're trying to lose weight, as soon as you start eating, it jumpstarts your body's metabolism. So once I found that out, I started eating as soon as I could in the morning. Now, it's not always going to be reasonable. Maybe you eat at work or on the way to work or with the kids or whatever the case may be. So all you have to do is eat something in 5 or more bites, and it has to be a salad. It can't be coffee or smoothie. They don't understand liquids as a form of nourishment. So I prefer something crunchy like a carrot or celery. I eat something in 5 or more bites. Well, first what I do is I move the dog out of the kitchen, if that's the area that I feed in. Then I go back and I put food in the bowl, and I don't allow the dog to walk into the kitchen. If it does walk in the kitchen, I rush towards them, and we'll show you how to enforce invisible boundary in a different video. So basically, once the dog, you're going to go back and forth until the dog stays outside the kitchen. Then you're going to fill their bowls, or bowl if you just have one dog, and then you're going to eat something first, leaning against the counter, where there's nothing blocking the dog between their food bowl and the dog other than your authority. Now, they're going to get up and try to go back and forth over and over again. When they do, just be quiet or just consistently enforce the rule, and they will learn eventually this is not allowed. And then if you have multiple dogs, I would feed them in the order of their rank. Go based on their age, unless there's a behavior that's more desirable for one dog or the other. And some dogs, you can't feed them out of order. But you just need to eat something to eat first, and then you invite one dog to come in and eat. When that dog's eating, the other dog's not allowed in, and vice versa. That leads us to another rule. When it comes to dogs and high-value items, to be within 7 feet of a human who's eating or has a high-value item, or a dog that has a high-value bone or something like that, to be within 7 feet is the way the dog would try to intimidate the other dog to get it. Another way might be to think about it this way. If you allow your dog within 7 feet and you don't disagree, as far as your dog's concerned, hey, she let me get within 7 feet, she's cool with me trying to steal her stuff. So that's kind of how they look at it. It's different than how we look at it. So don't think of the dog as being naughty or mischievous. It's just inappropriate in the dog world to be within 7 feet. It's how they would challenge things. This is why giving dogs people food is supremely difficult and causes a lot of problems, because you're teaching the dog to violate a boundary or a limit that they know that they should respect. And I promise you, if you were eating a plate of poop, the dogs would be just as interested in the poop as whatever you're eating. They just want whatever they don't have. So don't feed them people food. Also, garlic and onion are toxic to dogs, and that's on most of our meat products. Also, there are a lot of foods like potatoes and other foods that are not good for dogs to eat. So avoid doing that. If you feel like you have to give your dog some people food, if you're cutting some chicken up, cut the fat or gristle off, put it off the side, don't spice it, don't cook it, dogs don't get salmonella. When you get done eating your meal, you put the raw chicken in their food. It doesn't smell like your food and it doesn't come from the table. All right, so when you're eating, the dog should not be within 7 feet of you. Another rule that I have is I don't let the dog in the kitchen when I'm preparing food, which for a similar principle. Now, the way to enforce that is, like I said, we'll cover in a different video, but a little trick that you can do is helping the dog practice that particular behavior. This is one of the things I do as a dog psychologist all the time is I ask my clients, have you taught the dog how it's supposed to behave in that situation? And 9 out of 10 times, no, the answer is no, they haven't. So we want to teach the dog what we want them to do by helping them warm it up or breaking it down into individual steps. For this one, what I would do is get a piece of microwave a piece of roast beef or bacon or some sort of meat product. Now, this is like, let's say you're cooking food. So you go in the kitchen, you microwave a piece of roast beef, and you pull it out on the counter. Before you microwave it, though, you make the dog leave the room. Then you walk backwards away from it, like I said, in the video we'll show you about invisible boundaries. Then you microwave the meat, whatever it is, the bacon. And it's going to start smelling like bacon in your kitchen. That's going to cause the dog to want to come in. Well, when you're actually cooking, you're going to be distracted thinking about the ingredients, and the dog's going to cross that threshold. You're not going to disagree in that 3-second window we talked about earlier. And then when you do correct the dog later on, they're like, I've been sitting here for 25 seconds. They don't understand why. So instead of having you being distracted while you're cooking, you microwave the piece of bacon or whatever it is, and then you simulate like you're cooking. You turn the stove on, you grab pots and pans, you turn the faucet, you grab stuff out of the fridge. To the dog's eye, it smells and looks like you're cooking. But as soon as it crosses the threshold, you stop what you're doing and you address the dog because you're watching it out of the corner of your eye the entire duration of this exercise. Now, this is not something you have to do forever, but just until the dog starts respecting that boundary and trying to come in when you're in the kitchen cooking. Now, my indicators are, does the dog sit or lie down beyond the boundary? That's usually at that point, then I would actually start the actual cooking, and they won't see the difference. The other thing, I do the same sort of principle is when we're eating food. If you're eating food at the dinner table, the dog should not be within 7 feet of the dinner table. Let's say that you have a dinner table and there's kind of an area rug around it. Well, that makes a nice line of delineation. It doesn't have to be exactly 5 or 7 feet, but something approximating that. If you can't, just, you can tell them they have to stay out of the room, but look for like carpet to hardwood floor or that sort of delineation, because that makes it a little bit easier. You do the same sort of thing. You microwave it, you sit down in your regular places, and you cut the bacon in half, you put it on people's plate, they pretend like they're eating it. Anytime the dog crosses the threshold, you get up and you address it by marching directly at them, or you disagree verbally before they cross the threshold. So once you get in a habit of doing these things every time you eat, and this isn't just at the dinner table, if I'm eating a snack here on the couch, the dogs also should not be allowed. A lot of us have like a little table in front, and a lot of my clients have sectionals, so there's like a little U or an L shape in front of the couch. Well, when you're eating, that L shape should be off limits. When you're not eating, the dog can come and go as they please. So these are small rules that you're going to enforce multiple times throughout the day, every day. Every time you enforce it, the dog sees you acting like a leader. And that helps them respect you as a leader. And now if they respect you and they understand what you're saying and you give them a command, it's going to make them much more likely to follow it. Now, another rule that I like to incorporate is sitting at the door. And so I go to the door, and this is something you should not do if your dog is still potty training. If they have any accidents, come to this one later on. But what I do is I go to the door and I say sit once. Now, the more you say it, the less you mean it to your dog. And a matter of fact, if you repeat a command word enough, the dog will just permanently stop listening for that word. So some situations, it's problematic to follow through or to get the dog to do what you want him to do because you're in the heat of the moment. That's why, again, creating a staged scenario helps the dog practice that behavior. So if your dog wants to go out in the yard, well, now your dog wants to go out. You don't want to go out. So you go to the door and you tell your dog, sit, one time as a command. If the dog sits within 3 seconds, then I would open that door as soon as they sit down and let them out. If they don't sit, which they probably won't the first couple times, I walk away and I sit down. Now ask your watch or your phone or your Siri or Alexa or whatever you got for a 60-second timer. Make sure you set a timer because it will go by too fast or too slow. After 1 minute, go back to the door and make sure you're seated away. If the dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away and sit down. Standing looks temporary or transitory. Seated is, well, he's going to be there for a while. So you come and sit here, turn the TV on, grab a magazine, look at your phone. Be preoccupied for 1 minute. After 1 minute, get up and go to the door and command the dog to sit again. Sit. Give it 3 seconds. If it doesn't sit this time, I'll walk away for 2 minutes, next time for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes, and so on. I keep on doubling the length of time until when I go to the door and say sit, that dog sits, and as soon as it sits, you better open that door like grease lightning. So after a while, what will happen is the dog will be like, oh, if I want to go outside, I go sit at the door. So instead of pounding at the door, barking at you, doing all the other things that a lot of dogs do, you've conditioned and taught your dog the proper way to ask me to go outside is to go sit at the door. Now, I build on this by actually asking my dogs to sit before I cross the street when we're on walks. And I have a dog named Callie, and if I'm playing fetch with her in the front yard, which is not fenced, and the ball bounces out of the yard, she runs right to the edge and stops exactly the edge. She will not go on the street. Now, sometimes it's frustrating because I'm 3 houses away. I'm tempted to say, go get it, but that's a wonderful boundary for her to have, and it's going to help her from getting hit by a car or having other problems. And so, and again, it's a great opportunity for the dog to restrain itself. Dogs are very instinctive creatures. They don't think about, oh, if I cross the street to get the squirrel, I might get hit by the car. They're like, squirrel! And then they go get it. Yeah, I certainly understood that one. So the idea for this is to help your dog practice listening to you by incorporating rules and structure and helping your dog listen to that by you enforcing it consistently. And after a period of time, your dog will just get in habit and stop trying to get on the furniture. They'll stop trying to get in the kitchen where you're eating. They'll stop trying to go out the door. And for the door, the next step is to teach your dog to wait at an open door, but we'll cover that in a different lesson as well. All right, Taylor, is there anything I missed there?
Human goes first.
Oh, the humans goes first. That's a very good one. Thanks for reminding me, Taylor. So for dogs in the dog world, whoever's in front is perceived to be literally be the leader, and whoever is behind is literally perceived to be the follower. So if I'm going on a walk, I better go out the door first. The dog better walk next to me or behind me. Now, if you want to give your dog a free and let him walk ahead of you, that's okay. But I see a lot of people, their dogs are like pulling them on the street. And the dog thinks, I'm in charge. And if you have a dog's reactive, I promise you it will be more reactive if you allow it to be in front. So anytime you go through a door, downstairs, down a hallway, any sort of situation where there's a first position, make sure you're in that first position. Okay, well, anything else? All right, well, these are, and again, enforcing rules, if you get in a habit of doing this, it'll take you about a month to get in a habit of doing it. And again, don't think of enforcing the rules negative. But if you can get in a habit of doing it, you'll kind of do these things for the rest of your life, and after a while, the dog gets used to following that rule if you're consistent. And the dog stops doing it, so you don't really even need to police it. And then later on, when your dog is well behaved, and it's not any accidents, it's not chewing anything up, and it's demonstrating good behavior, then if you feel like sharing your couch with your dog, you invite the dog up and it's a one-time pass. All right, well, these are some examples of rules and the importance of having them so that your dog will listen to you.